Testing, testing. Okay. Hey guys, hope everyone's doing really well today or tonight. I wanted to make a quick video on, I guess, asking the question, why is everyone hating on being an employee? Now, the reason why I'm making this video is essentially I've seen lots of content online, mostly from business owners or people who have just left their job for a certain reason and then they're starting their own business or their own side hustle, something like that. There's lots of content I'm seeing online where people just hating on being an employee. Now, I understand it's not for everyone, but there is definitely a place to be an employee, right? The world wouldn't run without employees. We can't all be business owners. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of just discuss that quickly. Why you might want to be an employee, why you might not want to be. And yeah, just kind of just break down exactly, or I guess better try to understand why exactly is everyone hating on being an employee. Now, being an employee at a job, right? Now, like I discussed, right, particularly on social media, the idea of being an employee gets a bad rap. Okay. Common reasons include the cap on income. So, for example, oh, you're making $80,000 a year and you can only, get an increase of, 4% a year or, a couple grand a year. And then you just do that for the next 4 years and then that's it, right? That's how a lot of people sell this to you, or I guess have been. They also say things like limited flexibility, where you're required to essentially you know be in the office by a certain time or at the job site at a certain time. You leave at a certain time, and you only get 2 weeks off per year, right? So limited flexibility, and also having to report to a boss, or I mean, this in a lot of cases, someone that you don't actually like working with, having to work with them. There could be other reasons as well, but these are just kind of the most common reasons. People talk about, how bad it is to be an employee. Now, it's also generally sold from these people that being a business owner or being an independent contractor or maybe a sole trader or just someone who has their own income sources makes a lot more sense, right? And it might in some cases, but in other cases it might not, which is where, well, I'll be discussing shortly. It's not a clear cut decision. Anyone that tells you otherwise shouldn't be giving out advice like that. And this goes for anything, right? Anyone that says this type of property is really bad and this one's good, or they say residential is always better than commercial, or they say this is always better than this. I think we need to look at things a little bit more nuanced and, you know, in their contexts, right? If my goal is to, get high cash flow, commercial property is going to be better. If my, if my goal is capital growth, maybe it's residential, maybe it's stocks, maybe it's something else, right? Same as being an employee or a business owner, they are very different from one another, and one is not objectively better than the other, which might confuse some of you, but I'll get into it. So why might someone be an employee? So, generally speaking, you do have those fixed work hours, for example, 9 to 5, and you have your weekends and your nights off. As a business owner, you don't get that. You are working pretty much around the clock unless you want, especially at the start, right? Especially if you're doing a startup or something similar, you're going to be working a lot more than you would at a job, right? And the benefit with a job is, especially in Australia, we have some recent legislation that's come into place, but essentially you're not really ever allowed to be called on outside of working hours. Now there is obviously nuance to that again, but generally pretty good. If you only ever want to work the minimum and be able to live off that, it's quite good. It's very different to corporate America. It's a little bit more like Europe, at least in Australia, where it's very clear cut and there's clear boundaries between work and living your own life. Now, with a job as well, you do have that regular, consistent income, which is fantastic. If you personally need that security, you have rent, you have family, you have personal payments or health payments coming up. Really, really great to have a consistent flow of income. You also have obviously those employee protections that you can't just be getting rid of out of nowhere. And in Australia, at least, you do have your workers' compensation, your unfair dismissal things, etc. You have a lot of protections as an employee. With a business, you might not have that same amount of protection. Now, if you're looking to get a loan or invest, also being an employee is easier. Um, just because you got that security, that consistent income, um, it's a lot easier to pitch to a bank why you should be given that money um, to invest. So it could be really good. There's no need to source work with a job. You apply for the job, you put in your CV, and then you automatically start getting work from the business, whether it's from external clients, whether it's internal stakeholders, or whether you're doing something else. You essentially don't have to hunt for work. The hunting's done for you by the business, and you essentially just complete the work. That's all. It's quite simple. There is generally a clear promotion, reward, or incentive structure to motivate employees to continue to do better and also continue to learn more and provide more value to the business. Now, again, there's no guarantee for these kind of things. As with running a business, one year you could be doing not that great, the next year doing excellent, the following year not so great. There's no guarantee, but with when you do run a job, when you do have a job, there is almost an expectation that you at least get a CPI increase. You consistently make more and more and more, whether it's through a bonus, whether it's through a salary increase or a promotion, right? There's also no need as an employee to consider any business taxes, insurance, super payments, competition coming in to swoop your clients away. All these things are done for you, and at least in Australia, at least the business will give you your net income, with taxes organized and your super contributions organized, and all you need to do is rock up to work, leave, and you get paid. Very simple, and I'd say for the majority of people, works awesome. Now, should you instead start a business? If you're someone that doesn't deal well with authority and you don't want that predictability, you want things to be a little bit more fun and a little bit more all over the shop, for lack of a better word, a business could be really good, right? You run your own show, you do as you want, no one's telling you what to do. Could work really well for some people. There is no cap income wise on doing business, right? It will require more work to get it running, even to maintain that amount of work, right? Unless you put the right things in place, you're essentially either paying a lot for employees to run the operation for you, or you're running it yourself. But essentially, yeah, I mean, for most businesses, there's no real cap on income. Obviously, there'll be some business development planning and things that kind of, you know, make sure that you're able to increase your income. But for the most part, I mean, there is no real cap on it like there is a salary, which is great, but also a lot harder to run and manage that. As a business owner, you do actually, I mean, you do have more responsibility. You also have more liability to the business itself, to your clients, to employees, to stakeholders, to investors, all these things, right? You yourself are, or are, can be liable for these things, or at least responsible for a lot of how things perform, unless again you have those things in place. But generally speaking, these people who are touting how bad being an employee is, they're quite early in their careers, and or as a business owner, and they haven't really understood, hey, there is a place for employees and there's a place for business owners. Okay. Now, finally here, if you're someone that just absolutely loves what they do, they really get into the details, they could just do it 24/7. They almost have an obsessive, you know, something with what they do, and wants to just take it, all the way to space, all the way to the stars. That could be a really good way to do it through a business. Again, it's uncapped. You can work as long as you want. You can do as you please, as you see fit. Obviously, within the confines of laws and business regulations, etc. Yeah, so it could be quite good from that perspective. Now, I mean, do you pick one or do you pick the other? I don't know. It depends on you. Me personally, I like being an employee. I also see the value and merit in doing a business, which potentially, I might look at one day. Probably something in property or investing is, and could you do a part time and a part time? Yeah, you could. You could potentially work part time as an employee and then also part time as a business owner. You could get the best of both worlds. I was actually reading the $100 Startup recently. I forgot who wrote it, but I was reading that recently, and it gave me some really good insights into what it looks like to run a good business on the cheap, and where sometimes it's just better being an employee. So anyway, hopefully you guys have really enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know down below. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.